Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's well. So, welcome. My name is Kenneth Otalor. I'm the founder of a company called Calero. So, just to show of hands, is there anyone here that actually own a company, a freelancer, contractor? Just show your hands. Don't feel afraid. Okay, fantastic. Maybe 40–50% of the room. So, one of the main problems that small and medium enterprises, freelancers, contractors actually have are, number one, not getting paid on time. I'm sure you probably experienced some of these issues. So on average, it takes probably about 60 days for a company to actually receive an invoice payment. Communication problems. That's also a massive issue internally and externally from an organization. Errors in invoicing. So what you can actually see is that 90% of invoices are still processed manually. And with that manual process, it actually costs $12.90. That's quite expensive for an invoice to go through. In addition to transactions through third parties, which obviously takes time, and then the delayed process in new partnerships that actually occurring. So 70% of new partnerships incur massive risk in terms of when or if you want to go into business with a new entity or not. So what do we do? So what we do is we aim to increase, automate, and improve the accounts payable process for small and medium enterprise, freelancer, contractor, utilizing AI and speech recognition. We also want to build a trustful and collaborative network along the supply chain, and also creating insights, intelligence for the entities within the process. Target markets. We're focused on emerging markets in the Western world. So just a quick background. It's estimated in 10 years, the labor force in the US, 50% of the labor force will actually be freelancers. So what does this mean? It's the gig economy. So the times where an individual will work for one company, you'll get paid at the end of the month, and then you could be able to utilize that money for whatever you want. Now, we'll be in a position whereby you would have to, before you get paid, you have to create an invoice. You have to send it to your employer before you get paid. You would have to file your own taxes. You have to really deal with the whole administration. So just imagine speaking to a 25-year-old, a millennial, who has no idea about this, and telling them to go through this whole process. It's cumbersome, and there's so much friction that's going to happen. However, this is going to be the new process, or where I see and where it's been stated where the market is going to occur. Now, emerging markets. In the next 10 to 15 years, it's been estimated that there's going to be 10 billion people in the world. That's massive. Today, currently, we're about 7.1, 7.2 billion people. So there's massive growth that's going to occur over the next decade or so. What we see is there's probably about 570 to 580 million small-scale farmers. And these small-scale farmers produce 80% of all the food we consume today. So it's an issue for everyone. So the main issue is with the population growth, how will these small-scale farmers be able to increase production to sustain that growth? This is the area that we're trying to work on here. So some of the issues are education, and this is a use case. Agriculture is one area, but other areas we're focused on here. So education, so understanding about real-time issues that's occurring in terms of the quality of fertilizers, the type of land, how to decrease waste, which is a massive issue, to lack of historical data. So if you look at a lot of emerging markets, Southeast Asia, Latin America, Africa, it's a cash society. So if you produce something, you're going to receive cash in return. However, there's no transactional data that actually occurs between this. This is an area that we're working on. Limited resources. Having access to credit is also a massive area. Why? Because it will enable a company, small and medium enterprise, to be able to grow. This, in effect, is not only going to impact their business, but it's also going to have an impact on GDP on the country. And this is how the revenues will basically grow. So what we're looking to do is create a dashboard, a knowledge-based dashboard, which will enable a user in this scenario to be able to solve problems in real time. We're looking to have a data management tool which will allow one to be able to create documentation, credit memos, purchase orders, invoices. That transaction can then be sent to their client. And if it's sent to the client, they're sending anything cross-border, it takes 30 to 45 days before one would receive payment for the goods they've already supplied. That's a big issue. Because remember, you've already produced the goods. So what you have to do now, you have to find ways how we can decrease that process. So it's a supply chain issue and friction. And then also connection to credit facilities. From a government perspective, governments want to find ways how they can be able to raise more taxes from small and medium enterprises, which is a massive issue. Ways to increase GDP, and also having literacy in terms of technology and increasing the hard skills. So what do? We provide 8 main platform features. So we have a document tool, which is not just for the agriculture sector, but whether you're a web developer, whether you're a consultant, you can be able to create a documentation, send it within our dashboard. The transaction is generated on the blockchain, on the hash, which means in these societies there's a trust issue. Blockchain will aim to solve that. And ultimately, it's integrating the whole world globally. For us to grow, or for the blockchain community to grow, it's not about acquiring more wealth due to speculation. It's about integrating the whole world globally. This is one area that we want to focus on. So payments structure, so it'll enable an entrepreneur to be able to send and receive payments using our Calero tokens, or Bitcoins, or Ethereum, for example. And if you have to also remember that Bitcoin, and if you compare that to a local currency such as Zimbabwean dollars, the volatility is, there's no comparisons here. So there is no option. One would have to really utilize what we're looking at in terms of the crypto. We're also going to have an embedded communication system. So if you want to then communicate internally with your company, communicate with your clients, why do you need to do that separately? Why can't you do that within the one dashboard? Fraud and risk model. Now, I presume everyone here, this is probably the first time you actually met each other. So before you go into business, you're basing this on trust. It's a human emotion. If someone's based in Kenya and they want to have a relationship with someone based in Hong Kong, what you want to provide is a fraud and risk model using machine learning, whereby you can be able to find out as much information about the company before you decide to go into business. This is something that we are currently working on right now. Also, we're going to have a cash and spend management tool, i.e. you have 2 or 3 employees that are traveling, i.e. let's just say someone's abroad. You want to have an idea of whether they're in a restaurant, what their spend. So what can happen is you can be able to take a screenshot of your receipt. That screenshot uploads it to the database. That shows in real time the CEO or the manager in terms of what are my employees doing with the capital. Then we have a time tracker metrics. So what's happening now, this whole world is more globalized, which basically means people are working remotely. So i.e. if you have someone that's working outside of your office, how can you be able to understand that when they start work, when they finish work? So what will then happen is if someone started at 9, finished at 6, it will automatically generate a time. That time will create an invoice. That invoice is then sent to accounts payable and the payment is made. It's all about increasing efficiency and decreasing the time to get paid. Then app integration. We're building an open source platform which will enable developers within our communities, any interesting ideas, things they want to work on, they can, and be able to build it within our infrastructure. And then finally, our aim ultimately, as we've realized, time is the most valuable asset. We want to be doing things that we enjoy, not things that we don't really care about. So for an individual who's created, for example, a service, they want to get paid as soon as possible. So if, for example, the employer, for whatever reason, or the client does not want to pay them, then we'll have an invoice factoring option available for them as a last case scenario. So if you want to find out more information about us, we'll be conducting our testnet, will be ready next month. Pre-sale will be taking place in the summer, and then a crowd sale will be more as an airdrop. What we're doing now, 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting at the embassy with the First Secretary of Cameroon. I'll be traveling in 4 weeks to Cameroon to meet the President. I'll also be meeting the President of Ghana. So what we're doing is we're building the technology first, we're getting contracts in place, we're getting entrepreneurs to use our product, and then we're looking to raise the capital. This is where this whole market is moving. Not raising capital first, and then trying to build a project, get the utility, get people to use it, get contracts on board, and then you can raise the capital. So if you want to find out more, this is a crowd sale taking place. If you want to find out more about us, seems that's not. That's the token structure, and then this is a roadmap that you can go to our website to find out more information, and there are the details. Thank you very much.
Thumbs up here because we need to talk. We're working in the same sector.
Okay, very
right?
good.
Great. So we're running a bit late of schedule, but we have the coffee break now, and I need you to come back by 16:20. So just really, literally, go grab a cup of coffee and come back here, please. Thank you.